Hello YouTube family, welcome to or welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Sharita and welcome. And in today's video, we are getting into Perfume 101. I wanted to do this video because so many people ask me questions in the comments. They want to get a better understanding of how fragrance works, how to make it last longer, all of the little things that help you get a better understanding of fragrance in general. So if you are newer to fragrance, I think this will be incredibly helpful and explain some of this jargon that you hear in FragCom. For this video, we're actually doing something a little different. I feel like this is not quite the setting for Perfume 101. Why don't we actually take a trip into a perfume lab for this one? Okay, this is much better. Class is officially in session. So let's go ahead and start with perfume concentrations. There are different levels of oil that you will find in your fragrances, and the level of oil is how it gets its perfume concentration name. So you have everything from an eau fraiche to a cologne, to EDT, EDP, and EXTRAIT. And the lowest is going to be the eau fraiche. This is about 3% on average, and the highest end of this is going to be your EXTRAIT. So this concentration of oil is what gives it the scent. Typically, if something has lesser perfume oil, it is going to not last as long on the skin because the oil is what sticks to the skin. If a larger majority of that fragrance is alcohol and water, then just know it's probably not going to last as long. But this is not an end-all be-all. Plenty of fragrances that are EDPs that last much longer than some extracts. So even though this is a guide, it gives you an idea of what you can expect as far as the longevity. So if you take the Jo Malone brand, for example, they are cologne concentrations, unless you're talking about some of their more intense variations. But overall, you should not expect to get 8-10 hour wear out of something that is a cologne concentration. So just keep that in mind so that you can really manage those expectations. So another thing to understand is just because it has a higher oil concentration does not necessarily mean that it's going to project louder. It's actually quite the opposite sometimes. If you have a lot of oil, that is going to stay closer to the skin. So some extracts will actually stay closer to the skin. And because the alcohol makes it project, some fragrances that are a lower concentration can project very loudly, but you will see that the fragrance does not last as long in some cases. So that's going to take us right into longevity, projection, and sillage. The longevity is how long it lasts. Some fragrances will give you a couple hours of wear. Some fragrances will last on your clothes for days, months, on your skin for 12, 16 hours. That is the longevity. It has nothing to do with the actual projection and sillage. Some fragrances can last a long time on the skin, but they project more intimately. The further the scent travels into the air, into the space, into that room, that is your projection. Some we know fill a room, okay? Baccarat Rouge, massive projection. The Tiziana Terenzis, massive projection. A lot of times we coin this as being beast mode. Now sillage is actually a little different. It really has more to do with how that scent trail lingers. You know, sometimes you leave a room and the scent is still there. It may not be a huge projector and fill a room, but it leaves the scent behind, giving it a really lovely sillage. So when you spray your perfume, do not initially just go right in and sniff it. First of all, it's going to overwhelm your nose because a lot of that alcohol is initially just bursting into the air. Number two, a lot of the times people will spray something, go right in and say, oh, it has the alcohol smell in the opening. Give it a few seconds, a good 10, 15, 20 seconds, then go in and smell it so that what you're smelling is going to be a little bit more of the fragrance. So it really is a misnomer that we see a lot in FragCom, that longevity equals quality. This is just not the case. I think we really do have to manage the expectation and just know that if we love a scent, it is okay that it's only giving us moderate wear or only lasts 4 hours. That is why you should normalize decanting fragrances. If you know that they don't last 8 hours, you want it to last all day, just top yourself off. I saw a post recently online and it really did resonate with me, and I'm going to share it with you here. You don't judge a $12 artisan pastry by how long it takes to eat. Its value lies in the momentary experience, the unique flavors, the craftsmanship, and quality ingredients. Fine fragrance deserves the same appreciation. A brief masterpiece is still a masterpiece. Life is fleeting and so is fragrance. Now, with all the talk of longevity and projection, know that it is all subjective. I know we hear people say that all the time, especially influencers, but it is really, really key that you understand this. What wears and smells a certain way on me, projects a certain way on me, does not necessarily wear the same on my daughter. I've seen this time again, things even smell differently on us, which is why it's so important to try these fragrances on your skin, because your body chemistry is very different. The weather, the atmosphere, your body pH, all of these factors play in how a fragrance performs. And you do have to keep in mind that when perfumers are creating these scents, they cannot just add a little longevity into the recipe. It does not work like that. When you change the performance of a fragrance, you will inherently change the way it smells. Just know that a perfume is a delicate web. Each material influences all of the others. Additions as little as 0.1% can transform its character. Performance is not a separate feature. It is truly built into the fragrance DNA. The way we experience fragrance from person to person varies wildly. Some people will experience anosmia just depending on the fragrance. And this is also known as nose blindness. This can be something quite temporary. It can also be permanent. We know a lot of people in our fragrance world that comment that they do not smell certain notes the same, or they don't pick up on certain fragrance notes at all after experiencing a long bout of COVID. Other things like medications, smoking, mucus, or lengthy exposure to a fragrance known as olfactive fatigue all play a role in how we experience a scent. An example of this is you spraying a really beast mode fragrance right here, okay? It's right up under your nose. Your body's natural mechanism is to shut that nose down. It is overwhelmed. It does not want to continue to smell this because you don't want to get a headache from something that you're smelling. I've even had people tell me that fragrances like Guidance and Delina, they're only smelling it for 30 minutes. Literally last week, someone told me that the original Valaya, they are only getting like an hour or two. Trust and believe that is probably going to be an example of olfactive fatigue. Those fragrances, for the majority of people, are room fillers. They really do take over the space and they will last 10, 12 hours. Again, it's all very subjective, but for the most part, that is what people are getting. So it could be that you should avoid the triangle, which I always recommend for a beast mode scent. Now, if you're not dealing with a really strong beast mode scent, I would say overspray the scent to get it to last as long as possible and for people to actually smell it on you. If you know that you're someone who looks for the compliments but never seems to get them, it could be because no one can smell the fragrance on you. You do have to keep that in mind. Not everyone is going to give you a compliment on your fragrance, but if you were like me, I used to be a 1-2 type of girl, okay, with all of my fragrances, and wonder why I never got compliment. Wonder why when I asked someone, do you smell my perfume, they could never smell it, because I was not spraying sufficiently. Our noses simply perceive things differently. So keep that in mind when you are watching reviews. Someone may rave about it. This other person may really hate it. You may get a fragrance and just experience something vastly different from how I experience it. That's why I'm always harping on try these fragrances first. Get a decant, try it on your skin so that you really do get an idea of what you can expect from a fragrance. So let's now jump into fragrance notes and accords, which is the first thing that will probably come to mind when you hear the word perfume. So some fragrance notes can be naturally derived, something like a lemon. The oils can actually be extracted from that particular fruit or the skin of the fruit naturally. A lot of notes, many notes, are accords or something that is reconstructed from different notes to make a particular accord or note in a fragrance. And these can be derived either naturally from a host of natural notes, and they can be purely synthetic. Certain fruits, you cannot express the scent directly from a raspberry or a strawberry. And so a lot of the times we'll see people quite, polarized as to how these particular notes smell. Strawberry is a really good example of a lot of people just get something artificial when they smell a strawberry note. So if you know those particular notes bother you, always be sure to test it first, because you really have no idea how it's going to come across in a particular fragrance. There are so many notes in fragrance that are typically not not natural and you don't even know it. Things like amber. A lot of the times the vanilla that we experience in fragrance it's very expensive. So majority of fragrance actually have something called a synthetic vanillin. It is not the same as, you know, something in a $630 arts and materials true vanilla absolute note. So just know that there are differences, and a lot of the times that will show up in the quality of the scent. Now, some notes are just strictly fantasy, okay? Croissant notes, cake notes, skin accords, rum. These are examples of accords that are truly just figments of our imagination, but we actually want to create the scent of it how we know it in real life and put it into a fragrance. And those for me are some of my favorite accords in perfumery. If you're not new here, you already know I'm a gourmand girly. So a lot of the times these fragrances will be filled with accords. Now, some fragrance accords that we actually identify as notes are usually accords now. Things like ambergris and deer musk or musk were at one point naturally derived perfumery ingredients. Now, current day, absolutely not. Very, 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 very rarely, if not at all, will you see those naturally used in a fragrance. Something like oud, you can get it, but majority, I mean vast majority of the ouds that you get in perfumery are going to be synthetically derived, because oud in its natural state is very, 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 very expensive. This $50 Middle Eastern fragrance that, you know, has oud, the smell of oud, trust me, it is not real oud. So next, let's hop into the scent pyramid, which is something we always see when we're on Fragrantica. So the pyramid is usually broken down into three parts: the opening or top note, the middle or heart notes, and then lastly we have the base notes. Now the top notes are what you experience in that first initial blast of the fragrance. This is what's going to burn off first in the fragrance typically. So a lot of the times you're not going to see bergamot and mandarin in the base. It's going to be featured in the top. Citrus notes are usually very volatile. They're usually very fleeting, which is why a lot of the times, or really top note heavy fragrances, do not last as long or project as loudly as a rose oud type of fragrance. They're just constructed very differently in nature. They just do not wear the same. And again, managing those expectations. I don't get a fragrance that has citrus and, you know, a little jasmine and expect for it to last 16 hours and to fill a room. I just don't have the expectation. Nor would I get a fragrance that is an amber oud and expect for it to be an intimate skin scent, and I can overspray this and really no one is going to be bothered or smell it. That is just not how that works. So again, the longevity does not always indicate the quality of a fragrance. Now the heart notes are going to last a little longer. I would say from 30 minutes anywhere on up to a couple hours, and usually the majority of the wear will be the base. So you're talking, you know, from a couple hours on up into multiple hours. Also keep in mind that if a fragrance is very, very, very long wearing and loudly projecting for many hours, this phase of the top, the heart, the mid, it may take you longer to get that full experience. I know for me personally, I get the lychee and rhubarb, which is mentioned in the top of Delina, for several hours. It's not just a 15-20 minute thing on my skin. So the next thing you want to learn about is olfactive profiles. You have your aromatics, you have citrus, green, fresh, floral, fruity, spicy, and balsamic. So when I say balsamic, I know you're like, what are you talking about? Usually something resinous, and these are usually found either in the mid or the base of a fragrance. Now, when you really begin to pay attention to these olfactive profiles, that is how you learn what you actually like in fragrance. I know when I first started my fragrance journey, honey, I didn't want anything that was not like a sweet gourmand, okay? Some people cannot do heavy florals. For the longest, I was not a freshies girl, but I love fresh fragrances now. You will also see that as you continue along this journey, the things you did not like before, you're going to grow to love. The things you used to love, you may really not vibe with, you know, 5 years later. Who knows? 5 years from now, I may not want to look at another gourmand. I hope that never happens, but that is just the world of fragrance. Your taste, your nose is constantly developing, changing. So even when you start out not liking something, always be open to, giving it a sniff, honey. Okay, you in the store, you see it right there, just go ahead and smell it, because you will find that this really does change over time. I know even to this day, patchouli, it is very challenging for me, but I actually now current day have fragrances in my collection that have patchouli in the name. There are, prominent patchouli fragrances. Now, 80% of the time, it's still going to be a no for me. But I have definitely gotten to the point where I'm not afraid to smell it if it is something prominent and dominant. But I just know that I'm not going to blind buy anything. I'm going to try it first because I don't know what it's going to do. It still may make me very sick to my stomach, which is my gripe with patchouli. And I just don't enjoy it most times, but I'm still open to smelling all of the things. You may not like oud now, you may not like rose now, honey. You keep smelling enough of them, you're going to find ones that are anomalies, that are loves for you. And I would hate for you to miss out on an amazing fragrance experience just because you've kind of just written that off as, I don't like it, I don't ever want to experience it. So the fragrance wheel is actually a fun tool to help guide you into learning about what fragrances layer together, go together, and how you can get something that smells very complex. Fragrances that are kindred or next to each other automatically just feel and smell harmonious. We're used to experiencing these together, and so a lot of the times they are your safer blends. When you get into fragrances that are on opposite sides of the wheel, that lends to complexity. So it's not going to be super challenging for you to smell a fragrance that is a little citrusy and aquatic. They're a little closer to each other on the wheel, or something like a fruity floral. They're closer to each other on the wheel. But when you get something that is a citrus, woody fragrance, that is going to wear a little bit more complex. Say something like a Boo Talisman, for example. If you take something opposite of the wheel, like a green and woody, you're going to get a level of complexity. So when you want to start layering and you want to not play it so safe, of course we know fragrances with similar note structure, breakdown, they're going to be easy to layer. It's going to be hard for you to actually mess that up. When you really want something more complex, try layering things that are opposites and see how they smell. And a great rule of thumb for wondering how something will smell that I will do is I will take both of the fragrances and just smell the caps together. If they smell great here when you're doing this, chances are they're going to smell amazing when you actually put them on your skin. Now keep in mind that when you are sniffing these caps, a lot of the times it's like you're just getting a little bit of, the base, what was left when it was last sprayed. So again, you may want to just try it, test it on paper, on a scent strip, or just test it here on your hands just to see how everything kind of comes together before you just overspray with both and you've completely ruined your day because you don't like the combo. But this is a good place to start, just sniffing the nozzles together. Now there are certain perfumes that literally would have a bit of every section of the wheel, and that is truly going to give you a really complex fragrance. A good example of this one would be Ani by Nishane. It is loved, and I think that it is a vanilla that was really popular and loved because of its complexity. It is a little green, it is a little spicy, it's a little floral, it's got the balmy, beautiful resinous vanilla quality to it. It's a little woody, it has got a bit of everything, and that is what we mean by complex, okay? And a lot of the times these niche fragrances will give you something complex, which is why a lot of people really do dive, into the niche fragrances, and it is like a whole nother world. It really is. Now, don't sleep on the designers, because you do have houses that will give you complex scents. Tom Ford, is an example of that. Honestly, something like Mugler, these are designers that really do give you something that are complex. These designer houses really do have some cult classics, under their belt, because they are designers that will give you something that is not so run of the mill and something a little unique to the designer market. Also, two houses that create some very polarizing scents. So know that when you dive into the complexity of it all, that comes with polarity. So again, try before you buy it. So getting fragrances to last longer. These are my tips. First of all, I don't care who tells you differently. You need to start off with very clean skin, okay? When I try a sample on my skin at the end of a long day, you know, I haven't taken a fresh shower, it's going to smell quite different. And like if I go out there, have a walk, you know, outside, my pores are open, and I come back in and I just try a skin on hot, dirty, sweaty skin, it's going to smell very different, okay? So don't even sample your fragrances on skin that is not thoroughly cleansed and hydrated and moisturized. After you have cleaned your skin, you need to apply a layer of hydration and some type of oil to lock that hydration in. It can be something that has it all in one, like a really good thick body cream or lotion. That's going to give you hydration and it's going to put a layer of oil on the skin. Now, it is definitely a myth that you have to buy all of these scented products and, you know, the accompaniments too, for you to have a truly long-lasting wearing experience. You do not have to get the perfume with the matching body wash and the body cream. You don't have to do that. That is just something like the cherry on the cake. Those are for people that just want to add a little extra luxury to their experience. It is not at all required. My tip is, if you want your fragrance to last long, you can just take your body lotion, put it here, your cream or your oil, and you go right in and spray that perfume. Cover your body with it or whatever areas you want that scent to be, and you can go over your skin with an overall spray of the perfume, or you can layer something completely different over it so you can get a really good scent mixture going on there. Your fragrance wants that moisture and oil to cling to. Again, that alcohol, you know, it's continuously burning off throughout the day. So if you want that scent to stick to the skin, you've got to give it something to stick it to. Also, for something to really radiate and to really project, you want to make sure that you are at least hitting the pulse points. Yes, spraying the clothes is definitely a necessity if you want something to last, but also the warmer areas. So here on the arm, here, I would say maybe here, if you want to spray a little somewhere up top, just not right up under your nose is where I would avoid. Again, the back of the kneecaps, you know, you're generating some heat. So I'm going to go ahead and end the video out with some really quick do's and don'ts. Do start with clean and moisturized skin, which we just touched on. Make sure you spray sufficiently. A really top heavy fragrance with like a citrus fragrance with a little bit of peach, honey, spray that thing. I'm talking about overspray 15, 20 times. It's not going to hurt you. Spray your body, your actual skin, so that it actually melds with the body chemistry. And then before you put on your clothes, give your clothes a good overall spray, and your scent is going to last so much longer. Do not be afraid to put that thing on. Don't rub your wrist. When you do this, again, it's creating that heat, that friction too much, and it's going to just burn off your top notes. So do not rub your wrist. It's just not necessary. You can spray here, boom, quick tap if you must, but we're overspraying. Spray. You still need to hit the other side of your body anyway. Spray again. Don't spray your hair with regular perfume. You can at your own risk, but we have been talking about this alcohol content all day. Putting that directly on your hair eventually will dry out your hair. I know people that would normally just spray their hair, and all of a sudden, you know, a year later, they're trying to figure out what's going on with the hair journey, and while their ends are just dry and breaking. They formulate these hair perfumes and all of the body sprays for that reason in particular. You really do want to avoid putting anything alcohol heavy directly on the hair strand. Do sample these fragrances. We have gone over all the reasons why, so do not blame the influencer, the creator, the review you saw, the people on Fragrantica for your failed purchase, okay? Because there are no guarantees in perfumery. There are no rules in fragrance, and that's what I love about fragrance. Don't tell somebody that they are wrong. They're perceiving a fragrance wrong. They're just perceiving it differently from you. Our noses are very different, okay? Someone with sinus mucus issues, they're going to experience something maybe a little different than from someone that smells everything, that has a nose like a bloodhound. So try these fragrances for yourself. My go-to has always been Scent Split. Lucky Scent also has samples, but very, very, very small. I rarely will sample anything that small. just because I have no idea what their wearing experience is really going to be. My rule of thumb, if you can get it in a 5 ml decant, try that, because you will be able to spray it enough times to give you at least one overall wear, so you can get some good idea of how something will smell, so you're not literally only having the option to spray it here on your hand with the little 2 mils and then do this up close thing all day, because it's going to give you a very different experience when you get a full bottle and you give a full wear. It's not going to smell the same a lot of the time. So you guys, I hope that was really helpful. I really put a lot of thought into this video, how I wanted it to be. So I hope that you got something from it. Please drop me a line below and let me know something that you learned new today from this video. I know we have a lot of people watching that are not new to this, honey. Y'all true to this. So a lot of this you probably already knew, but you may have learned something new. And for those newer to perfumery, I hope that this has, again, been very helpful. Be sure that you are subscribed, you guys. I love you all, YouTube. It has been real, and I will catch you guys on the next one.